How exactly does Diablo 2 turn a single number into a bunch of tiles that somehow form a coherent and unique maze? And how can we use that to figure out all maps in the entire game just from looking at a few distinct tiles in Act 1? My old seed finder asked you to reconstruct an entire tower level which was tedious and error prone, and it didn't even work in hell difficulty. I fixed most of these shortcomings. My new seed finder now asks questions about tower rooms that you are traversing anyway, and you can even skip most of these questions. Why didn't I build it like this in the first place? Performance. I was running the actual game code to perform the full load sequence for levels. That took days per level as it included a lot of things we don't care about. I've now got this down to a few minutes to brute force all 2 billion seeds for a level. How did I do that? I reverse engineered the full algorithm for generating tower levels. It all starts with a single empty room that is grown step by step into a maze by running a loop that picks a random room and a random direction. Say it picks the top left direction in the first iteration. Let's attach a room there and create a connection between them. In the second iteration it has 2 rooms to choose from. Say it picks the second one, then another random direction. What happens if it picks bottom right? It retries the step. Select a new room and new direction at random. For example, let's say it picks the same room but the top right direction instead. By the way, that re-rolling for collisions is the reason why there isn't a simple and easy tell for the Arcane Sanctuary direction. We need to observe aligned RNG rolls in different dungeons for that trick to work. And with all these collisions, the total number of rolls is just, well, random in most dungeons. This process is repeated until we have 6 rooms on normal difficulty or 12 on nightmare, or an even higher number on hell difficulty depending on the tower level. Let's place our final room in this corner here. Note how it's adjacent to another already existing room. That triggers another RNG roll to maybe add an extra connection between these two. The exact probability used here can really change how larger levels feel. If the probability of adding extra connection is high, you get an open level. If it's low, you get a lot of dead ends. In tower, it's 50%. We are still missing a way to enter and exit the level. Another RNG roll determines the direction for stairs. It's a single RNG roll mod 4 to determine the direction for both entry and exit. The exit direction is always the entry rotated clockwise, which is why tower levels always turn left. And the RNG gave us a top left entry here. The game converts an existing dead end room into an entry room here. So the exit faces top right, and conveniently we have another existing dead end room that we can use here. But what if it picked a direction without a suitable pre-existing room to convert? For example, if the entrance goes to the top right, the exit must go to the top left, but there's no such spot. In these cases it adds additional rooms in a suitable random location. That's why tower levels can be up to 2 rooms larger than the data indicates. Real tower levels don't look that empty, and all the inner rooms I'm using here at the moment don't actually exist in the game. I made those up just for the visualization. First, the game picks a few special rooms containing preset objects like dead rogues, weapon racks, or decorations ranging from candles to whatever is going on here. The exact number of special rooms depends on total size. The small size on normal only allows for 2 such rooms, so let's get rid of this distraction again. Final step. For each room we pick a variant. Special rooms only have 1 variant in tower, so whenever a T intersection with the top right exit missing is picked as a special room, it gets this fire pentagram. Most non-special rooms in tower have 2 variants. For example, different door positions in intersection and corners, or different sizes for the dead end rooms. You have seen all of these rooms in the Seed Finder tool before. Wait, only 2 variants? What about the open and closed graves? Some rooms have over 100 variations if we take these into account. Those are decided by the per room RNG. Yes, each room has its own seed. In fact, most things in Diablo 2 have their own seed and RNG. Monsters, NPCs, chests, and even items. Those extra RNGs are seeded by a parent RNG when the objects are created. Here, each room has an RNG with a seed decided by the level RNG. The level RNG itself is seeded by the map RNG. You can trace each RNG back to one of 2 roots: the map seed and the game seed. That hierarchy of RNGs is a topic for another video, but it means that you cannot use maps to determine loot. These two are simply not connected. And before you start typing a comment saying, well, I know this one particular seed that always gives me that drop if I just open these chests in exactly the right order. Yeah, these exist, but you use them with the -seed command. And the -seed command sets both the map seed and the game seed. Usually these aren't connected. Back to tower levels. All room templates consist of tiles, and most tiles have multiple variants to give each room a unique touch. For grave slots, the game generates a random number between 0 and 6, so 7 possible values, but we only had opened and closed graves. In my original seed finder, I was just looking at the collision data, and these two cases are easy to distinguish. But if you go to the game files, there are a lot of different models for these graves. Diablo 2 Classic defines 14 such tiles, 7 per orientation. The remake has fewer models because, well, these are 3D models. You can rotate them for different orientations. And surely there's a simple one-to-one mapping from old to new graphics. For example, you can clearly distinguish these two graves in the old graphics. What do they look like in the new graphics? What? Literally unplayable. Well, even with all of this mess, you still get a lot of extra info out of this, even if you can't always exactly tell which tile is being used. The UI now allows you to select multiple possible options, and the old open versus closed logic just boils down to selecting all opened or closed options. I have revamped the UI completely, and the lookup logic itself is also entirely new. There are now only 5 mandatory questions, the directions of all levels. You can always see those when you walk or teleport to tower. All optional questions refer to the rooms right after the entry and before the exit. You don't need to answer all of them. I've added a progress bar that estimates how many bits of information you have already got. How does all of that work? My re-implementation of just the important parts of map generation is just so much faster than the game code. It doesn't need to run the full loading logic. And the results just go in a large lookup table that maps these features back to seeds. I've also improved the overall user experience. There are now hotkeys for pretty much everything. The room selection view has filters based on connectivity of the room. The seed list at the end shows you some key properties of the seed, so you don't have to click through the map just to get directions for these guys. And it's more resilient to mistakes. Since there are far more questions than possible levels, any mistake will likely lead to not getting any matches at all. In that case, the UI outputs close matches that only differ by up to 2 questions. Go give it a try, the link is in the description down below. One last thing, graves aren't the only randomized tile. Almost every tile has multiple different variations. Even the exact patterns on the floor are determined by the map seed. Sure, spotting the exact position of a floor tile is a bit tricky for most tiles, but you could definitely build a lookup table based on what the floor and walls look like right next to the stairs on every level. But then, is tower even the right place to look at? I only used it because it's small and fast to load, but now that performance is no longer a problem, I'll probably follow up with more such lookup tables in different levels. It's almost done, there are just a few small problems with other levels. For example, I don't think jail is supposed to look like this. And you know the drill, if you don't want to miss that, consider subscribing. I'm not quite sure what I want to do with this channel in the future or what you want to see. So far your feedback and comments have all been great, thanks everyone. I've tried to keep this video a bit shorter while still cramming in a lot of information. But I did cut a lot of stuff that's not related to Diablo 2. For example, I could talk about the data structure used for the index. I've changed it from a prefix tree that only needed 9 operations per lookup to something that now takes millions of operations per lookup, and yet it's faster now. Would you be interested in something like that? Leave a comment down below if you are. I'm also planning to do a video about the exact mechanics of gambling. I could include some fun rabbit hole about how Microsoft's exact implementation of Quicksort was relevant to port this to Reign of the Warlock. Is that something you want to see? Or do you only care about how to gamble for uniques? But overall, I don't want this channel to be about Diablo 2. For me, the game is just a vehicle to explore fun rabbit holes. Fun fact, I don't even play the game actively. Like, I stopped 20 years ago, and I just did one playthrough when Reign of the Warlock came out earlier this year. But don't worry, I'll definitely follow up on reversing the RNG. I'm having too much fun to stop anytime soon.